you. Councillor Casey.
Anna, just to clarify, I've got two questions. My first question still relates to the board's views on the interim transport levy. We had presentations from all the boards, and I'm very clear that there's been some positional change, obviously, from when this report was written, especially in terms of Ōrākei local board, who were very clear in their position with regard to supporting the fairer model, which is giving it, apportioning more responsibility to business to pay it. The other two boards I'd like you to look at are Mongakiiki Tamaki and there's one other one. I have 15 boards, Devonport Takapuna. I have 15 boards supporting the interim transport levy as proposed by Councillor Clough, and 2 boards did not respond. So that means 15 out of 19 is 80%. So could you comment, especially with regard to Ōrākei?
Sorry, I'm not aware of any change in Ōrākei's position. I haven't been advised of
through
that.
the Chair then, can we alter the position as stated in the report? Because we were all there on Monday when Ōrākei said before all of us that they would support the interim transport levy as proposed by Councillor Clough, which was to apportion more responsibility to business. And as did Mongakiiki Tamaki and Devonport Takapuna. It's a small thing, but it's quite important that 80% of the board support it.
Yes, so, well, I accept that.
Thank you.
Yep.
So can we just note that somewhere?
Madam Chair.
My second question.
Well,
Is that a point
can
of
I
order,
put some
Councillor?
clarification on this? Because I'm looking at a document that was handed to us by the Ōrākei Local Board, and it reads, Councillor Casey, community feedback supports an increase in the
We were all
portion-
there, Cameron.
in the portion paid by
We were
businesses.
all at the meeting.
And that this should be based
You
on
can
property
rewrite
value.
history any way you like.
Feedback.
We were all there. It
Councillor
was your
Casey.
board.
I'm just
Thank you.
ditch up the evidence.
Thank
My
you,
second
Councillor
question.
Brewer. Second
Nothing's
question,
documented.
Councillor Casey.
Oh, it should not
You'll
be
have to
announced
wear
as
it, Cameron.
Councillor Casey,
Through the Chair.
you want another question?
Yes.
Ask it.
Yes. There are 3 local boards who, through their annual plan submissions and their presentations, talked about the living wage and the ability of local boards to pay the living wage in their smaller procurements with local businesses. Albert Eden tried to do that and failed miserably. Can we have some comment about the ability of local boards to do something with the living wage, given that this council decided not to?
So the policy adopted by this council was not to have a living wage policy, as you're aware. Whilst local boards do have responsibility for procuring contracts for their local facilities, notwithstanding the major service delivery contracts, which is the responsibility of the governing body, the view of staff is that setting of wages is not part of the contracting that local boards have responsibility for.
So can you confirm that Albert Eden did try to pay the living wage to a contract and were refused?
I can confirm that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Regarding the feedback around the interim transport levy from communities, I do have a question in here, and it's around percentages, because we know as we were being, over time, over the consultation time, councils were fed back amalgamation of the feedback over time in graphs and pie charts, which was very helpful, numbers, etc. How many people online, how many people at actual face-to-face meetings. And right along the process, it was pretty even around what the community was saying. That they weren't too fussed really. And then when the numbers were put in for the actual community meetings, it just leapt up. And my question is, because I attended quite a few of these, and I'm just wondering about the disproportionality of percentages. When you have one person turning up to a meeting and one person says, I agree with the change, that's 100%. Some meetings there were 3 people turned up. I went all the way out to Manurewa, about 3 members of the public. But if 2 out of 3, that's over 60%. So to me, I'm just concerned about all of a sudden the numbers jumped up, the percentages jumped up when we got the stats at the end. And to me, from a numbers point of view, it doesn't stack up. But percentages, it looks very favourable. So can you just reply to that for me? Because I went to several of those. There's hardly any people. 5 at Massey, you know.
So there were 1,829 responses in the submission forms,
Yeah.
which were about 44% in favour of increasing the business share and about 38 against. If I've got my numbers right. And there were 147 participants' comments noted at the Have Your Say events.
147.
So it's a smaller number.
Yeah.
They had 52% supported businesses paying more and 40% saying stay the same.
Okay, so the question I have with that is, well, it's not. It's actually a statement. I'm concerned because going to those meetings and not contributing, just listening, which is what the brief is, and it should have been, is that I felt like there wasn't enough background information for people to make
Councillor Cooper,
decisions.
can I suggest we're going to have this debate later on? I mean, this is really local board
Well, it is,
feedback.
but the thing is, it came back from, these were events held by local boards. They were not held by councillors or governing body. They were held by local boards in local board areas, and the councillors had no part in input into designing them. So to me, that's a local board consultation, and they were led by the local board chairs. So to me, this is a local board issue. I mean, I might be wrong, but councillors don't have events. We're not allowed to have them.
Well, I'm saying, Councillor Cooper, is we are going. I'd rather not have this debate at this time.
Okay, so
think
I've got
we
my
need
I've
to-
got my answer. So it was 147 people
147 comments were noted.
comments. Thank you. Out of 1.5 million people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clow.
56,000. I'm just gonna,
Can we have?
just asking.
Can I just ask? Thank you. I mean, members of the public get very enthusiastic, but maybe a barracking from the back is not fantastic when we've got a really long
It's
day.
a comic show. It's hard not to laugh.
Okay, well, thank
like,
you.
was
Thank
Superman
you.
sick up
Now,
all over again?
I just
You're
point
adding
out,
to it,
you know,
Karen.
thank you, Lisa.
So aggrieved.
Councillor Clow.
I just want the Chair to verify. Remember when we had the workshop after the consultations, the public consultation, it seemed as though everyone, all of us who had been at these meetings, and you made the comment yourself, Madam Chair, that certainly the video seemed to work and help explain these,
Madam Chair,
which can be some complex things. So could you just verify that everyone thought the video, we need to be looking at that next year as perhaps a preferred option, because it seemed to work very well.
I'm not
and it
going to
should be
comment
online.
on anything that we're going to vote on later. Thank you, Councillor
No,
Clow.
I'm asking you, can you comment that that was the mood of the meeting, that
video
we all
was
agreed
good,
on
yeah.
that?
Yes, fair
Thank
enough. Okay, thank you. George,
Yeah,
another
just a quick question. In relation to the Kaipatiki local board, the chair, Kay McIntyre, raised an issue in relation to Marlborough Park and the upgrade of the facility there, the community building. I just wonder if that's been able to be resolved. We don't know.
Not to my knowledge, but I can follow up where that's at and
Okay,
let you know about
okay,
that,
thank you
Councillor.
much.
It is resolved.
Councillor Fletcher.
Madam Chair, I'm happy to move the recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Fletcher. I'll second those. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Councillors, on to... Thank you, Anna. Sterling job you're doing there.
Sterling.
And item 11 is the local board budget updates.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Through the chair, I take the report as read and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Right, thank you. Any questions? Councillors? Release reserve funds. Approve 3.9 million capital funding. For this item. Sorry, I've just received a late, which I didn't know was coming. Indulge.
Which item?
12. Oh, sorry, it's for the Mayor's budget. Councillors, could you actually put, if you're going to do an amendment, sorry, senior moment, please can you put the item number on it? It does help with confusion. It goes on at the top table when pieces of paper are thrown at you willy-nilly. Thank you. Anyway, as I said, any questions on this one? Councillor Cashmore.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And recommendation C, where we're increasing the LDIs for the islands, I asked the question of the Mayor's Chief of Staff yesterday afternoon. It'd probably be worthwhile for some clarity around why those figures are as they are. 57k for Great Barrier, 29 for Waiheke.
So through the LDI funding policy, the two islands are allowed to negotiate annually, and these extra amounts are due to the increase in the imposed staff overhead for ACE under the community empowerment model. So that's what those two amounts for, the exact increase.
So with the case of Great Barrier Island, the 57 is for a dedicated staff member to help deliver LDIs to Great Barrier.
Yes, that is for the strategic broker and the practice hub supporting that strategic broker.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Which is something they asked for,
Yep.
quite clearly. Thank you, Councillor Cashmore. Any other questions? I'll move the recommendations. Councillor Darby, are you seconding it? Or
Yes,
do
I
you
will.
want to
I'd
ask a
just
question?
like to acknowledge the boards. There's been some significant deferrals there, so I want to acknowledge the willingness of
Yep.
the boards to participate in this budget.
Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded. Any other questions, comments? Put it. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carry. Thank you. Item number 12. The Mayor's proposal of the budget.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councillors, this is an opportunity to promote and take the budget towards our final stage, and I want to start by putting a little bit of context about our budgetary balance sheet situation so that we can reflect that in the debate that goes forward. It's fair to say the amalgamating of the rating system and the bringing together of 7 councils plus the regional council into one has provided us with some fairly significant challenges, and the most significant was around and is around our budget. As a consequence of the need in particular to amalgamate the rates and to find a reasonably fair balanced place, we've had a lot of debates around things like the UAGC, differentials, and latterly about the interim transport levy. Having observed the community's response and involvement in those debates, tens of thousands of people involved in public meetings and in giving us public feedback, arriving at the end of the second term and 6 years in with the sixth budget now being debated, provides us with an opportunity, I think, for a little bit of a deep breath and for an opportunity to reflect on the fact that we have a balance sheet that is particularly strong. You can confidently, on the basis that you are seeking re-election, go to the community and point to the fact that with a AA rating, we are sitting with a very strong balance sheet and with a debt level that takes and is maintained under 12% of our annual revenue levels. And that issue of debt is one that I think is critical in the community's eyes. Over the last 6 years, and certainly in the last election campaign, and it continues to be a matter of considerable concern in the community, but you've got two choices here. And this is the reason why we have put some parameters around it to actually govern the amount that we can borrow at 12% or 275, depending on which way you want to look at it. we had underinvestment in this city's capital infrastructure for decades, and we would not grasp the nettle, and you and I around this chamber have. Councillor Wayne, it is our budget, not the Mayor's budget. I have the real honour of leading it, but we all vote for this budget. And so with our budget, what we have tried to do is address that very fine balance of financial prudence, but at the same time investing in the deficit and infrastructure investment that has blighted this city for decades, and in particular transport. I would much rather that Auckland City had grasped the nettle 60 years ago and backed Dovemeyer Robinson to build the City Rail Tunnel. But they did not. Now, you and I around this chamber and the local board leaders and our organisation can be hugely proud that against the backdrop of huge government expectation and our community's expectation, but with the desire that no one wants to spend any money to achieve those expectations, I believe we have actually found quite a good balance. And you can go to the community with real pride in the fact that this is the council that is chosen on behalf of the community to actually address the problems in this city. Now, in doing that, we have therefore struck a fairly strong balance, but at the same time, we know that we've had to deal with some pretty rigorous debate in the community around, in effect, realigning our budgetary requirements and addressing that deficit and spend. It's been tough. And so what I am suggesting and proposing to you in the first three issues, the UAGC, ITL and large farms, is that the status quo prevail, and I'll deal with each one of those issues. First of all, the UAGC. I love the fact that it's an annual debate because this is the equity lever. And if you're sitting there purely as a representative of Manurewa or Mangakeke or Howick or the Foe, then you would have a specific position that says, I want you to back the equity concerns of my community solely. But in all of the public meetings that I've been to, of course mine is a unique position. The role of the Mayor is the only one that's elected at large. But that aside, we all sit here with our regional hats on. And in this debate, I've tried to wear my regional hat. And must. And for you, I know it's more challenging because you are specifically and directly answerable to your local community. But in the regional community, I believe that we have actually found the right balance in the UAGC. You know, all of the public feedback that we get every year for the last 6 years has been pretty much the same. And Councillor Cam, if I was sitting there representing Ōrākei, I understand, because they give you grief. But in their very better moments, and in the better moments of those who sit in some of the high-value properties, whichever way you shift this equity lever, there will be losers to the extent that people will have to pay the price of the shift in the equity lever. So bearing in mind ability to pay, and bearing in mind the fact that higher value properties, of course, are benefiting to a greater extent from property value increases than low, and we try and find the right balance between all of it. Then, councillors, I would suggest to you that with another LTP coming up in only 12 months, that it's not too long to wait, given the level of view from the community on this issue. So I'm not persuaded that there's a compelling enough case at this point of a lack of equity across the whole rating base to want to propose to you that we change the UAGC. I am suggesting this is very much a steady as she goes budget. Going into your election campaign, steady as she goes. The ITL. Again, I am suggesting and proposing to you that the better way forward with the ITL is to focus on the first word of those three words, interim. It was never intended to be a permanent fix. It's not. We are involved in significant discussions with the Auckland Transport Alignment Program work at the moment with ourselves and the Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of Transport and Bill. And we have kept you well advised as to progress in that, and we are looking to sign that project off in July, August. So we basically want to give our community very clear understanding as the uniting of the government and the councils, funds and strategy in terms of the delivery of the transport fix for Auckland, and secondly, that we will give the community a very strong lead around how we fund transport going forward. And we know this is the vexed issue, and this is the issue that we decided meant there was a special case for an ITL over and above what we were doing in the rating system.